dynamic theory of Carl Jung revolved around the archetypes within the collective unconscious and the ego. These archetypes help us persons to shape our own personality and to define our own true self. For our final OBA exam, we choose Rostom Padilla, known as Bibi Gandang Hari, and the current president of the Philippines, which is President Duterte. So, let us go first to Rostom Padilla, also known as Bibi Gandang Hari. So, Rostom Padilla is an actor in the Philippines during 1980s to 1990s. I read a blog about him and it stated there na at the age of 12 years old, he started to get infatuated in his platoon leader in Boy Scout. He just ignored it and many years had passed until he got married to one of the actresses in the Philippines. But in the end, their marriage didn't last long. In his case, in the first place, he knows something was not right. He started to question himself, him as a practicing member of Jehovah's Witnesses. He only believed that being a gay is not an option because it is very opposite from what he learned in the Bible, so he decided to stay as a man. Him as Rostom, he doesn't believe that a person can be a gay even not wearing woman's clothes or putting makeup on face. He is the example of 1,000 persons that belongs in anima archetypes. Rostom has a feminine side without even knowing it. His ego remember all his experiences since childhood. He personally sensed it, but he's just afraid because men in his family were all masculine and bruscos. He has a principle, that's why it's really hard for him to know his true self. Because of confusions, he started to feel guilty and vulnerability is growing on himself. His instinct started to affect his behavior, which led him to more confused of what he really is. He tend to keep those human qualities he has because of his childhood trauma. Imagine you really wanted to show what you really are, but the trauma keeps digging in your mind and you wanted to be true to yourself, to refresh your true identity, but something is stopping you for doing that. It's not easy because it's really hard to hide the self or the true self. Yes, he experienced happiness, but for him that's not enough. He interact with others. Every time people praise him on what he is, on what they see he is, he like it, but he knows to himself that he's not happy with compliments they give to him because he knows in himself na he has a heart of a woman. So, in the journey of his self-discovery, he cannot endure everything, cannot endure anymore. He knows he's a man that is a woman from within. So, in the end, he decided and he chose to be true to himself and he didn't mind the people criticizing him. He finally met the real him and now she's trans woman, contented and very happy to her life. Always remember, knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom.
Psychodynamic theory was originally a theory of personality created by Freud. Freud believed human behavior could be explained by intrapsychic processes and intrapersonal patterns outside of a person's consciousness, awareness, and based on their childhood experiences. I think that theory is suited for our President Duterte because President Duterte's strong and violent and anonymous stance against those who violate the policy because During his childhood, he is raised by a disciplined mother. Young Rodrigo Duterte was often trained by their mother because of his bad behavior. In his brother interview in 2017, he said that not only did the president experience harsh ways of enforcing discipline from his mother, but that he also received a beating from a priest in their hometown school, wherein a cane was used to strike him, according to Emmanuel Duterte. The president also made a mention that not only he receive a beating from a priest, he also claimed that he was once molested by one in an interview in 2015. He named his abuser, but I will not name that abuser. Now that we know now the story behind Duterte being like that, because he experienced worse than we could imagine, because he didn't experience a good life, he punished the criminal in the way that we actually don't want. Having a worse childhood experience will always lead to a trauma to a child that will become a tattoo that can be removed in his memory. The president that we always bash because of his attitude towards the people that he cares at experienced the worst life in his childhood days.
So, ang next po na napili kong theory is yung dispositional theory ni Gordon Allport, and kinuha ko na rin po yung example doon na si General Luna. So, Antonio Luna was a soldier, chemist, musician, war strategist, journalist, pharmacist, and hot-headed general, a complex man who was unfortunately perceived as a threat by the Philippine ruthless first president Emilio Aguinaldo. As a result, Luna died not on the battlefield of the Philippine-American War, but he was assassinated on the street of Cabanatuan. General Luna is an example of person that belongs to these two cardinal disposition. Him as a leader of soldier in the Philippines, he is very passionate, very outstanding, and this trait has dominates his life until of his last breath. No one can compare to this former general of the Philippines, a great general that kills by his own fellow citizen. He was tortured by them. Nung namatay siya, hindi nakalimutan ng mga Pilipino si General Luna dahil sa kanyang pinamalas na katangian, kakaibang traits na siya lang yung nakakagawa talaga. And doon sa mga katangian na yun, doon lang po umiikot yung buhay niya, as in. Sobrang tapang niya, he's very strong, very unique, super brave. Marami siyang pinanggalingan pero mas pinili niya pa rin pong maging general. Sa sobrang tapang niya, mag-isa na nang hinarap yung kamatayan. Sa two types ng disposition ni Allport, he belongs to motivational kasi he intensely experience things or kung ano pa man. Namulat siya na isa siyang general and namatay siya na alam niyang pinaglaban niya ang mahal niyang bansa. Napanood ko na po yung movie na yun ni General Luna and very intense po.
Individual psychology body of theories of the Austrian psychiatrist Alfred Adler, who held that the main motives of human thought and behavior are individual man striving for superiority and power, partly in a compensation for his feeling of inferiority. I think the individual psychology suit for Miss Toni Gonzaga and Miss Alex Gonzaga. Because Alex have an older sister, she is having inferiority complex for her. Because Toni is looked by her parents, Alex always left out by her parents. So she is having a striving for success. Because Toni is in showbiz, Alex Alex joins in showbiz too. Now, she is having competitiveness with his sister. But when her sister became more famous than her, she is always at the back of her sister. She always recognized because her sister is Tony Gonzaga. But despite of rivalry towards them in showbiz and family, they are helping each other and they love each other. Alex always respect her sister and her sister only she can lean on every day. When I watched their interview in GGB when Tony said na umiyak si Alex sa kanya na akala niya nagbibiro lang. Then pag uwi, umiyak daw talaga si Alex. Kasi nga, alis na yung ate niya sa bahay nila. This is proof that they always be there kahit anong mangyari. And because Tony is the firstborn, she is having intensified feeling of power and overprotective to Alex. Because Alex is the youngest, she wants to feel being pampered by his parents and having inferiority towards her sister. Her sister.